When I first started playing Monster Hunter, I almost quit. Something about this game makes it feel a bit more different compared to other games. So don't you worry about feeling off or weird about this game, because I was there too. I'm gonna guess that you've been getting destroyed by these monsters, or you're probably stuck against this one monster. We all started as a baby noob when we first jumped into here. So in this video, I will help you out with these tips. Let's instantly talk about the main thing with this game, and that's weapons. There's 14 weapons to choose from. All of them have their own movesets and mechanics to learn, and each of them have their own difficulty to master. I'll be honest, I'll never completely master any of these weapons, and I mean being able to perfectly use a weapon to the point of being invincible, because there's a bit more to just learning a weapon's moveset, which I'll cover later on. Anyways, once you learn how a weapon works, then you will feel much more fluent when it comes to battle. Trust me, when I learned how to use a weapon, I felt much more comfortable fighting monsters, and it felt a lot less clunky, rather than me spamming buttons in the hope that I'm doing something. The best way to learn how to use a weapon is to actually look up guides on YouTube. I'll be creating weapon guides as well, so be sure to look out for them and subscribe if you haven't already. After watching the guides, be sure to practice them using the training dummy. Or you can go straight into battle with what you've learned, especially if you don't have time to use the training dummy. But it can help you out with what you've learned and put it into practice without the pressure of being in a real fight. I also think that you should try out every weapon just for a tiny bit to see which suits your playstyle. For example, if you like a weapon that's slow and hits really heavy, then you might like the Greatsword. However, if that's not your playstyle, then maybe you prefer something fast and easy to move, like the Dual Blades, which is why I say to try out every weapon to see what you like best. If I were to recommend one of these weapons, it would have to be the Dual Blades for someone that's playing Monster Hunter for the first time. It's quick and easy to use, but the downside is that it has no shield, which you might want if you want to block attacks. I too used to be that player that would like a shield to block attacks. At least with the Dual Blades, you can evade attacks pretty quickly. Although if you want that mix of mobility with a shield that's not too hard to use, then the sword and shield is another good choice for beginners. The most important mechanic to learn in battle is the focus mode. New to Monster Hunter Wilds, this mechanic plays a vital role for dealing massive damage to the monster. Thankfully, it is very easy to learn how to use this mode. This mode allows you to aim your attacks to hit specific parts of a body, which is very good for some weapons that keep you grounded. The Greatsword is one of these weapons that the focus mode helps a lot for new players, and that's because it can change the way your character is facing. Sometimes the monster will end up being behind you or somewhere else, so with focus mode, you can redirect your attacks in the direction of your choosing. Anyways, the main reason you'll mostly be using focus mode is to perform your weapon's focus strike attack. Doing a focus strike will allow you to deal quite a lot of damage to a monster on top of staggering it, giving you a chance to deal more damage. It's basically great for stopping the monster from doing what it's doing. However, you can only do the focus strike when hitting the runes of a monster. The runes can be created when attacking a monster's body part enough times, and they will appear as a red mark on the body. This red mark is also highlighted when using the focus mode, so you can see where it is. I also think most monsters can make a rune temporarily appear when they do specific attacks, so be sure to keep an eye out for that chance to deal damage. Next tip is to know how armor works. Of course, any gamer would think armor is armor, dude. You slap on the next tier of armor so you can get more defense. While that is true to some extent, the more armor you unlock, the higher the defense, but there is a bit more to it. Each armor piece has elemental resistances, so putting all of these pieces on will give you an overall resistance to specific elements, which means you gotta be careful with which armor pieces you're using, just so that you don't get one-shotted by these monsters. Trust me, you don't want to have a negative resistance to an element when you're fighting against some of these monsters. Even if you have the best armor on, if your resistance to an element is extremely low, you're gonna get one-shotted by that monster's element. Be sure to keep an eye on your resistances. Also, you'll never be able to balance out your resistances, so give up on the fact of trying to make them all neutral. Just accept the fact that your armor will be positive or negative against some elements. Although, there are things you can do to increase your resistances. The most important thing about armor is the skill that it provides. Skills help with your character in so many ways. From increasing your defense all the way to providing unique buffs, skills are extremely important for you to create an armor set that will help you fight against monsters. For example, there are skills that can increase your attack, your chances of getting a critical hit, or increasing the speed of sharpening your weapon. There's so many skills to choose from, which is where you can customize how you play the game. Some of these skills work hand in hand with your weapon, so be sure to look through them thoroughly to see which can help you out. Oh, and I forgot that even weapons have skills as well, so check them out. You might have noticed that these skills have levels. These levels can be increased by stacking armor pieces and weapons that have the same skill. As an example, this chest armor piece has the same skill as this arms armor piece, and if I equip them both on, that will increase the skills level. With all the weapons and armor to use, the next tip is to learn about the monster. Every monster is different, as you can already tell, which is why you need to learn almost everything about them. Well, the only things you need to know about a monster is their attack patterns, what element they're using, and weaknesses. Once you fought a monster, the game's guidebook can tell you the elemental weaknesses of a monster, so that you can be prepared to fight them by using whatever weapon and armor you have. Whereas learning a monster's attack pattern comes with time. The more you fight a monster, the more you learn how to evade, block, or counter a monster's attack. Trust me, the more you pay attention to the monster, the easier the fight will get. Obviously, you won't be able to 100% predict a monster's attack pattern at first, but later on, you will notice what a monster does before they attack. Which brings me back to what I said before about the fact that there is more to just learning about a weapon's moveset. Learning a monster's attack pattern comes in hand to hand with a weapon's moveset, because now that we can basically counter attacks with almost every weapon, you're gonna need to know how a monster moves. So if you know when a monster hits you, then you can counter it. Additionally, there are a few things that I believe the game doesn't really tell you, but attacking different parts of a monster can be quite beneficial. For example, if you were to attack a monster's tail enough times, you will be able to cut it off, which will reduce the range of the monster's tail swipe attack. Or if you were to hit a monster's head with a blunt weapon enough times, you can knock out the monster, giving you a chance to land more attacks while the monster is down. Be sure to do these things in combat to weaken the monster and to eventually destroy them. Another tip when fighting monsters: don't do full-blown combos. Only do them when you see a huge opening, like when you knock down a monster after mounting them. By the way, that's another thing you should be doing. Mounting attacks can be done by doing aerial attacks, like jumping off a ledge, or your secret. Once you've mounted the monster, your goal is to open up a wound and attack it with your weapon. Opening a wound while mounted can be done by either mashing the triangle or Y button, the circle or B button, or attacking with your weapon. I like to mix between the light or heavy knife jabs, and whenever the screen darkens, I jump to a different location on the monster, which is done by moving your character. Mounting can't be done more than a certain amount of times, because that would be too OP. It just becomes harder and harder to mount, so don't rely on mounting too much. When fighting monsters at the start, they will be fully active, meaning that it will be hard for you to land a full combo. Only when you fully understand how a monster moves, later on, you can do whatever you want. But from the start, I recommend doing a few jabs here and there. Eventually, the monster will get tired after some time, or when you dealt enough damage, which will make the monster slow down. This is the best time to attack them. There's a lot more things I can talk about when it comes to combat, so I guess I'll separate that into another video. Be sure to keep an eye out for that. Oh, I totally forgot about eating meals. I went a little ahead of myself there. You should eat a meal before going out on a hunt. This is because you can max out your current health and stamina bar for whenever you hunt. If you don't eat a meal at all, your character will start to go hungry and their health and stamina bar will go into the 4th dimension. Make sure to keep your hunter topped up so that you're actually ready to fight. Plus, the meals you create can give you buffs, so look around and see what you can do. The next tip is items. There's tons of items that can help you out with your hunts. The most notable ones are potions, which you'll be using 100% of the time. There's also other items like the Null Berry, which can nullify any status effect. Be sure to bring a few of these items with you so that you're ready for your hunts. You might also come across the problem of running out of potions because the monster is destroying you, so be sure to either purchase them from the shop or by making them yourself. Finally, this is where I had to talk about farming materials. Every single material you come across in the world, be sure to grab them all. Every time you see any material, you are gonna need it one day or another, because one day you're gonna regret not having enough of that one material that you should have farmed on day one. Materials help you craft pretty much everything in the game. Potion, traps, bombs, support items, weapons and armor. To get all of these things, you're gonna need materials to craft them. Dude, I had like more than 1,000 herbs in my inventory in the past Monster Hunter game. So you know I was stocked up on potions whenever I needed them. Some might call me insane, but at least I was ready to fight monsters. That's pretty much all I have to say for starting up in this game. However, there is still a lot more to cover, like going into details with combat, armor, and the weapons themselves. So if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel to see more. Please leave a like and maybe comment down below any other beginner friendly tips that I have missed. And I'll see you guys later.